So, Debbie, let's move on to you, and kind of related in many ways, India.
Yeah, well, the UK wants to be a global superpower for life sciences, but we can't do it on our own. So, who are we going to be doing it with? And I have to say, this segment is just going to be the tip of the iceberg because this is a massive subject. So, just briefly, I mean, I started to get wind that something was going on in an MHRA board meeting a couple of years ago when Andy Morling, the head of enforcement officer, was speaking at the MHRA, and what he was saying was that there were many illicit drugs that were coming in from Southeast Asia, but actually there was a fine balance because they had to keep India on side because they were reliant on India for a lot of the pharmaceuticals. So that comment niggled me. Just recently, the World Economic Forum, we always go back to the WEF, this was just last week. India could become the world's third largest economy in the next 5 years. But let's look how. So when you go to look at what the World Economic Forum are putting out, and there's one of their sort of famous wheels there, you can see that they're really talking of India as the pharmacy of the world, vaccinating people in developing countries. And many of those agendas there you can see are to do with vaccines and organic chemicals. So if we just jump on one from there. Sorry, that's it. Thank you. Why does the world depend on India's vaccine production? Well, as again, I say there, it's the pharmacy of the world. So they want to get India back on track because obviously with the lockdown, it slowed things up. Now, India, let's not forget that India have got 1.4 million people living there.
Billion,
it's Sorry, billion. I do apologize. Thank you. 1.4 billion. And the coronavirus vaccine, India had a head start in this because they worked together with the Serum Institute. Now, this means that 500 glass vials a minute can be filled. That is giving 1.5 million doses for the developing world. And they work very closely with Oxford. And if we go to Business Insider, we can see how much money is involved here. India has 15 pharma billionaires in the top 100, and their net worth is over $85 billion. And let's not forget, Rishi Sunak, his wife, there's a lot of money tied up with pharmaceuticals in India again. And if we look at the Indian pharmaceutical industry, and I'm just showing you this as an example because this was 2021, the future is now. And this is trying to make India the global manufacturing hub to meet global requirements. And so this is basically establishing a global hub with India. And you can see there marked in yellow who is going to be helping India to do this. All of these countries are working in collaboration. And of course, India is one of the founding members of the BRICS nations as well. So we've seen roadmaps since we left Europe. We've seen roadmaps between the UK government and Israel. And we also have a 2030 roadmap for the UK and India. The 2030 vision you can see there, which is basically committed to partnership that delivers for both countries. But this includes a lot of life sciences. Now, this is a big document, so I've just taken a selection of topics here to show you what it includes. So the good old favourites that we've mentioned many times before, antimicrobial resistance, and of course there you've got the One Health approach, you've got COVID pandemic preparedness, and you've got health. So again, there's talk there about working with the Oxford Serum Institute and also the UK Zoonotic Research Twinning project that's going on. If we go on, we can see that it's also involving non-communicable diseases, which this involves to genomics, precision medicine, cell and gene therapy, smart biosensors. So you're starting to get a feel of where the UK and India are partnering very tightly. And also we can see digital health coming through India. They're experts and they have a huge knowledge of digitization. And so the whole digital health scheme, and we'll look at that in a second with regards to Tony Blair, but also yoga will be coming in, and they're going to be exchanging much more, many more nurses and doctors with India. Already we're seeing a lot of Asian workers in our NHS. So a big tie-up, but I want to let's go back to some old favourites, and Ben's already highlighted quite a few, but let's go back to when the Prime Minister David Cameron welcomed Prime Minister Modi at Wembley 8 years ago, and of course that is now Lord Cameron. Let's see the rock star welcome that he gave Prime Minister Modi.
And now I'd like to welcome the man you've all been waiting for. They said, hold on. Hold on. They said a chaiwala would never govern the world's largest democracy, but he proved them wrong. He rightly said, Achche din aane wali hai. But with his energy, with his vision, with his ambition, I would go one further and say this: Achche din zaroor aayenge. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
So what a welcome. But it's not just David Cameron, actually. Let's look at Tony Blair. And you might remember that we did mention Apollo hospitals, where the Protect Britain was going to come in with this AI-run hospitals. And let's look and see what Tony Blair has to say about India.
This technology revolution is central, and it's one of the reasons why India's done so well in these last years. If you want to see an example of a reform that leads to real results and shows that government can work for people, look at India's digital ID program. This technology revolution is central, and it's one of the reasons why India's done so well in these last years. Because I think, Prime Minister Modi has understood the importance of it, and your digital ID program, I think it's one of the most important programs. I keep saying to people around the world, if you want to see an example of a reform that leads to real results and shows that government can work for people, look at India's digital ID program. It's been a remarkable transformation. And that's where, by the way, if you want to help some of the poorest countries in the world today, I think a lot of the poorest countries in the world, if they embrace technology in the right way with the right help, they don't have to replicate the legacy systems of developed countries. They can actually, in health, in education, and in the role government plays, they can bypass all of that. So technology, it's got its downsides, but it's a fact, and if we understand it and we master it properly, we can make it work for people.
So just a quick reminder on the Apollo hospitals and a nice picture of Tony Blair there. There's plenty more of that at the Tony Blair Institute, but he's not the only one. Let's just look at Jeremy Hunt very briefly to end this segment on India.
Can India live up to China, which is the other big trading partner?
Well, I think we have had focus on China for a couple of decades now, and international investors are now saying, hey, there's India. We've got to look at the opportunity here. And India is the fastest growing economy in the G20 this year and next year. It's got this bold ambition to be a developed country by 2047. So I think there's a lot of really amazing things that are going to be happening here.
India, a country to watch.
Yes, indeed. Okay.